Hi there everyone, and welcome to Fingers, Fums and Fits. In this episode of TTPITL, I will be painting the Stormcast Eternals Prosecutors from Warhammer Age of Sigmar Spearhead. Can I keep the paint inside the lines? Let's find out. I will be painting these in a similar scheme to the Liberators, so this involves starting with a base coat of Chaos Black, and then painting a second base coat of Incubi Darkness over the armor, before applying a heavy dry brush of Grey Night Steel over everywhere I want it to be silver. I then washed these areas with Griff Charger Grey, and applied a zenithal dry brushing with Stormhost Silver. Moving away from the armor, and to do something a bit different, I decided to paint the various parchments next, which I started with a coat of Baneblade Brown. These areas were then washed with Seraphim Sepia. And then, following a relayer of Baneblade Brown, they got a highlight with Rakarth Flesh. Now, because I still didn't quite know what I wanted to do with the armor at this stage, I decided to paint their weapons next. So I used Iron Warriors to paint the blades, before I lightly stippled some Stormhost Silver for a bit of texture, and applied an edge highlight too. And for a bit of subtle variation, I then washed the blades with Space Wolves Grey. Mournfang Brown was then used on any weapon grips, straps, and scabbards. And I finally decided I was going to paint some armor details, including the chainmail and trim, with Screaming Bell. These previous two areas, the brown and the bronze, then got a wash of Reichland Flesh shade. And I lightly dry brushed the weapon grips with Baneblade Brown. Now, let's address those wings. Firstly, by painting the flames and primaries with Corax White. This needs to be as smooth and as white as possible, so I recommend using a couple of thin coats. I then washed the primaries with Tyrant Blue, just to give them a slight tint. And then it was time to do the flame blend, which I won't go into here, but it's the same method I used on the Lord Veritan's sword. A link should be on screen now. And finally, let's look at those bases. Firstly, I painted any stone elements with Dawnstone, which I then washed with Basilicarnum Grey, and then applied some texture to the stonework. Firstly, by stippling on some Dawnstone, followed by a rough dry brushing of Administratum Grey, and finally a zenithal dry brush with Grey Seer. Any wooden elements were painted with Garragax Sewer, and any metallic trim with Screaming Bell. Before these two final areas, the wood and metal on the bases were washed with Agrax Earthshade. And, following a bit of texture on the flats of the bases themselves, I think we can call these prosecutors done. I really enjoyed painting these guys. And while the armor was once again a bit of a slog, and the flames did take a bit of time, I still enjoyed them far more than the Liberators. Maybe because they're more dynamic? That's gotta be it, right? Anyways, what do we think? Did I manage to keep the paint inside the lines? Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Have a great day everyone, and I'll see you later.